Guimarães to Manchester United has just got real, according to reports. In my live stream earlier today, I covered reports from good outlets that Bruno Guimarães to Manchester United was in advanced talks and a deal could cost 69 million. And I just said, wow, this is incredible, but I don't believe it. I don't believe Newcastle United would let Bruno Guimarães go for 69 million pounds. I don't see Bruno Guimarães pushing to leave Newcastle. I've always said if he leaves Newcastle, I think he goes abroad. But, when there's a big story that comes out saying Bruno Guimarães to Man United is advanced, you then wait to see what else comes out. Does Romano say anything? Does Ben Jacobs say anything? Does Ornstein say anything? Does anyone, when it's not true, journalists come out very quickly and say, no, nothing in it, nothing in it. And, well, journalists aren't shutting down this story. Journalists are heating this story up, saying that Bruno Guimarães has an agreement with Newcastle that if they don't get Champions League football, he can leave for £70 million. There's talk of a verbal agreement being there. There's talk of a secret release clause. There's rumours. Now, none of this has been confirmed by Mr. David Ornstein. And I will say if Bruno Guimarães has a verbal exit agreement with Newcastle, it doesn't necessarily mean a lot because Alexander Isak had a verbal exit agreement. And we know that Newcastle didn't keep to that. I still think we won't get Bruno Guimarães. I still think that Bruno Guimarães will be a very hard deal to do. I think if someone's going to leave Newcastle, it'll be Tonali, not Guimarães. I think they will not let Guimarães go. But if there is some kind of clause, if Newcastle don't get Champions League football, that Guimarães can go, and that story is true, then this deal has just got real. Whether he chooses Manchester United over rivals is yet to be known. I would absolutely love Bruno Guimarães, but I'm not going to let myself get excited yet. But there is a few stories to cover. We're going to talk about Manchester United stars getting an England call-up because Thomas Tuchel has never called up a Man United star to his squad. We're going to talk about Anderson to City. Does that mean Baleba to Manchester United? We're going to talk about the Bruno Guimarães news. Casemiro apparently making it happen. Tonali or Bruno Guimarães? Because realistically, only one will leave Newcastle, not both. Who would it be and will they go to United? More Joao Gomes links and, of course, more news coming out that Manuel Ugarte is not happy at Manchester United and wants out. Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, and update roundup show, where I'm going to round up all the latest Manchester United news that's come out today in 10 minutes. And wow, guys, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of news to talk about. We're going to have to get right into the news. It's getting interesting. But I want to start a little bit off topic about England because the England squad is going to be announced at 2 o'clock tomorrow. And that is this report from Rob Dorset of Sky, where he's saying that Thomas Tuchel is expected to include at least one Manchester United player in his squad. Maguire's most likely, but Maino is pushing for a call-up. And Luke Shaw has an outside chance. I don't know if he actually has any information on who Tuchel's going to call up. It doesn't seem so. But he's saying, considering Manchester United have the most points in 2026 in the Premier League, have been the best Premier League team in 2026, and Maguire, Shaw and Maino have started every single one of those games, bar one for Shaw and bar one for Maguire. It does feel like surely at least two of them have to make the England squad in Maguire and Maino. I could understand why Luke Shaw doesn't get called up because Lewis Hall is phenomenal and so much better than Luke Shaw. But if Maguire doesn't get called up, that is a joke. Maguire and Cobby have started every game. We're the best team in 2026. They should be called up to England, and hopefully they are. I don't know if you watched my live stream yesterday, but I said, and I've said it a million times on my channel, as of the feeling is that Elliot Anderson will choose City. That's not done, that's not set in stone, but we've been saying it for months. Elliot Anderson is way more likely to go to City than Manchester United. It looks like he's going to choose City. And we were speaking about it earlier today, and we were speaking about it yesterday, and I said, because Newcastle will be really difficult to deal with, and I'm not confident that we get Tonali or Bruno Guimarães, because I know Anderson wants Manchester City, that might leave Manchester United to go back in for Baleba. Now, Sammy Mockwell is a very credible journalist, and he again confirmed Anderson, City are front runners for Elliot Anderson, but, Anderson is still a priority for United because he's the perfect kind of player that United need. But Sammy Mockwell said that one source has said that via an intermediary, Man United have made inquiries about Baleba in recent months. We know that Sully said about 3 days ago that United was still in for Baleba, and there has been talk of a Baleba price drop. I still have a feeling the most realistic midfielder we sign this summer is Baleba. Now, some people won't be happy with that because his form has dropped, but I think Newcastle's difficult to deal with. Anderson is City-bound. I do think, unless we can pull off one of Tonali or Bruno Guimarães, which hopefully we do, I do think Baleba could be Man United bound. But I want to get into the Bruno Guimarães news. Now, we covered the main story earlier about a deal being close and £69 million deal. And I said, of course, take it with a pinch of salt. But it was a credible journalist that said that. Since that, Ben Jacobs has gone on the United Stand YouTube channel and added to this. Bruno Guimarães has a verbal agreement with Newcastle that allows him to explore moves to clubs with UCL football if Newcastle don't qualify themselves. So again, this was said by Ben Jacobs on the United stand that Bruno Guimarães has a verbal agreement with Newcastle that allows him to explore moves to clubs with UCL football if Newcastle don't qualify themselves. Now, there's also been rumours in the past of there being like some secret clause in Bruno Guimarães' contract that if they don't get European football, he can leave Newcastle for 70 or 80 million pound release clause. Again, none of this has been confirmed. Verbal agreement doesn't necessarily mean anything because Newcastle gave Isak a verbal agreement and they only just let him go in the end because Liverpool bid it big. But Ben Jacobs is saying there's a verbal agreement that if Newcastle don't get Champions League football, they will allow Bruno Guimarães to explore moves. Now, I think Newcastle can get Europa League football. I think Newcastle can get Conference League football. It's still possible for them to get Champions League football. I don't think they're going to do it unless they win literally every game, because with Chelsea falling off, Villa falling off, and Liverpool not looking convincing, it is definitely possible for them. So Newcastle don't look like they're going to get Champions League football. Man United do look like they're going to get Champions League football, although a lot can change. But what does that mean? Some verbal agreements that's been revealed that, Bruno Guimarães could go. Well, for me, that means that Newcastle can't hold on to Guimarães. If Newcastle don't get Champions League football, they can't just go, Bruno Guimarães is simply not for sale. Like they tried to do with Isak. If there is some kind of agreement there that he's going to cost 80 million or 70 million, then it's a case of convincing him to come. And Casemiro is working on that. There's reports saying that we've actually had talks with Bruno Guimarães himself, but we've not approached Newcastle. And there's now reports coming out of Spain, from Brazil, from decent sources adding to this. Now, could journalists just be using Man United and Newcastle for clicks and jumping on this Bruno Guimarães story? Absolutely. But reports from Brazil are saying that Bruno Guimarães is on Man United's radar and has the possibility of changing clubs. Now, I've always felt Tonali might go, Bruno Guimarães will stay, but the Bruno Guimarães stories are really heating up today. They said a transfer would only occur if Man United are willing to pay 75 to 80 million euros, which is 65 to 69 million pounds. It would be ridiculous not to pay that for Bruno Guimarães. He's absolutely worth the money, and Casemiro is pushing to make the deal happen. Now, this Casemiro telling United to sign Bruno Guimarães story has been going on for a little bit of time. We also know from other sources as well that Manchester United is showing interest in Bruno Guimarães. The club has already made informal inquiries for the player, evaluating making a move. So this story that came out earlier today, that there was advanced talks with Bruno, has been backed up by many people. Does Man United having advanced talks with Bruno mean the move's going to happen? No. We could be getting used by his agent. We could be getting used by his agent to get him a better new contract at Newcastle, because Newcastle want to give him a new contract. And Newcastle, potentially, if there isn't some kind of secret agreement there, or they do get Champions League football, they might just price him out of a move. Now, interestingly, Romano said that while Man United appreciate Bruno Guimarães, he could say the same for 6 or 7 other players in the midfield market. The club haven't decided what midfielder they want, and Romano said that he would keep an eye on Tonali more than Bruno Guimarães. Now, I've always felt we like Tonali more than Bruno Guimarães because Tonali plays deeper than Bruno Guimarães and is younger, but I do think Bruno Guimarães is the better of the two players. Ben Jacobs said that Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimarães' respective camps are fighting against each other by making each other's availability known. Both players are aware that if one leaves, the other won't, so they're trying to get a potential move in place before the other does, which was an interesting story from Ben Jacobs, which has caused rage bait in the Newcastle United community. But Ben Jacobs is essentially saying Tonali's agents made it so clear that, Tonali's open to a move, that if Tonali goes, Bruno Guimarães knows he won't be allowed to go. So now Bruno Guimarães' agent is doing the same. That means Bruno Guimarães' agent could simply be using Man United so he gets his dream move to Real Madrid or somewhere, or journalists are making up stories for clicks, of course. Now, Ben Jacobs said that United do have a genuine interest on Guimarães and that it's being driven by Wilcox, and we have had talks on the player side, but we've not approached Newcastle United. So I think the Bruno Guimarães stuff has just got real. A verbal agreement's been revealed. Apparently, the player is open to the move. We've had talks with him. United do want him. So, the move just got real for Bruno Guimarães, but I don't know. I don't know if it will happen. I wouldn't get confident. I don't think Newcastle want to sell unless we're getting really strong reports from Ornstein. I would say just keep this one in the back of your mind. This is one to watch. This is one that could definitely happen. But remember, 1, Bruno Guimarães doesn't give off the vibe that he's desperate to leave Newcastle, and 2, Newcastle are difficult to deal with. On top of one of Tonali or Bruno Guimarães, I would love Joao Gomes. Joao Gomes for me is the perfect Ugarte replacement, and Man United are monitoring Wolves' Joao Gomes as they plot an overhaul in midfield. I think as a second or third midfield signing, this makes a lot of sense, and we've been linked to him a few times by Ty Marshall of the Manchester Evening News. And he, for me, Joao Gomes would be the perfect Ugarte replacement, who is set to leave United, with Sully coming out of a report today that Manuel Ugarte is unhappy at Man United with his current game time and feels he's not valued. It's becoming increasingly likely that the 24-year-old would leave in the summer if the right offer comes in. So it looks like Ugarte is going to leave. Joao Gomes is being looked at, who's the perfect Ugarte replacement for me. United are in for Tonali and United are in for Bruno Guimarães. Only one will be allowed to leave Newcastle. And we are being really linked to Bruno Guimarães, which is saying to me, like, this has got real. Whether we're being used by his agent or not, we'll have to wait and see. Whether we're being used by the media to get clicks, we'll have to wait and see. But it does seem to have got real. Still can't see us getting him, but it would be an unbelievable bit of business to do. And of course, 2 Man United players could be called up to the England squad tomorrow. But there's talk of Bruno Guimarães being 64 to 69 million pounds. I physically cannot believe that story. But look, if Newcastle have some kind of clause where they would sell Bruno Guimarães for 64 to 69 million pounds, then wow, that would be incredible. But I don't see Newcastle doing that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below on the news. Thank you for watching. Bye.